Hi everyone, and welcome to Geeks After College with our special segment, First Impressions. Except...
it's our second impression.
It's kind of our second impression, let's be honest. It's not our first impression, it's our second impression. I should start with introductions. I'm Neil Butler, and this is our very own Stephen Ingram.
How you doing, guys?
Hi everybody, nice to see you again. We just got out of seeing The Dark Knight Rises in actual IMAX at the Mall of Georgia in Buford. Yeah, there's an establishing shot, so there you go. This is not our first impression of the film. We actually saw the film last weekend when it came out.
We both saw the midnight release.
We both saw the midnight release, actually. So this is our second impression of it. We had our first impressions. We really liked it, but we've seen it again. We had time to reflect on it. We had time to make our thought, to form thoughts on, what we liked, what we didn't like, and, well...
Can you see by the dawn's early
You are as precious to me as you were to your own mother and father. I swore to them that I would protect you, and I haven't.
the twilight's last gleam.
The mayor's gonna dump him in the spring.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
But he's a hero.
A war hero. This is peacetime.
You think this can last? There's a storm coming, Mr. Wayne. You and your friends better batten down the hatches. Because when it hits, you're all gonna wonder how you ever thought you could live so large and leave so little for the rest of us.
What does that mean?
Rise.
Do I even really need to go into the story of The Dark Knight Rises? Because I'm pretty sure most of the people have seen it already. It would almost feel kind of redundant.
If we could sum it up in like a couple minutes, maybe, but I don't know if we can do that.
Would you like to sum that up?
Batman or The Dark Knight Rises.
There you go. The title says it all. Like The Blair Witch Project, or The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford.
Harold and Kumar go to White Castle.
Harold and Kumar escape from Guantanamo Bay.
Dude, where's my car?
Dude, where is your car?
It's over there.
It's right over there. The Dark Knight...
I do argue that Dude, Where's My Car is like a really good title, though.
Oh, it's a great title.
I use that as proof as a good title. The movie, whatever, say what you want, it's a good title.
Oh, it's a great title. But anyways, The Dark Knight Rises takes place 8 years after The Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan's second most penultimate film as opposed to Inception. Bruce Wayne has become a recluse. He hasn't been seen in the public eye in 8 years. And Gotham has pretty much gone back to its natural order. Everything is good, calm, peaceful. It's peacetime.
Thanks to Harvey Dent being the hero.
To Harvey Dent being the hero and Batman taking the blame for everything that happened.
Mm-hmm.
But a new evil arises in Gotham in the form of Bane. So now it's up to Batman with the help of Selina Kyle, aka Catwoman, and a young rookie cop named John Blake to help take down Bane and to save Gotham. So, Steven, what were your first impressions of the film? Let's get that out of the way.
My first impression was it was really good. It has a really good ending. I think the first time I saw it, I would have preferred if Batman actually sacrificed himself.
We should get this out of the way. Spoilers.
Yeah.
So this is a spoiler review, but we're going to give you guys the benefit of the doubt and assume that most of you have already seen this.
Yeah.
If you haven't, there's no excuse. So there you go. Anyways, continue, Steven.
Yeah. I think the first time I saw it, I kind of thought I think it would have been better if Batman actually was willing to, die for Gotham. And I guess part of me just kind of saw Batman as more of a tragic figure. I guess it was kind of the downfall, but he would die doing something really great. But I think on a second viewing, I've just kind of noticed that you know, it's not just like kind of bits in the ending that lead to, you know, him surviving it and living on without having to be Batman, you know, making sense. So, you know, I feel a lot better about that. I like the idea of Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character sort of taking up the mantle. And I noticed this, I don't know if I mentioned this in the Geeks at College podcast, but I think there's definitely some inspiration from The Dark Knight Returns, especially with the ending. Because, like, in the ending, like, what happens is Bruce Wayne, Batman, like, fakes his death. And then, but really, you know, he's still alive. Like, this girl, Robin, like, kind of digs up his body. And he kind of, like, he stops being Bruce Wayne. And he just kind of lives on as Batman, training, like, a bunch of kids, like, a bunch of, like, wayward kids, sort of being, like, his army of kind of, like, keeping order in Gotham. And that's kind of almost, like, what's set up in the end with, like, the Wayne Manor being, like, a house for wayward kids and orphans, and John Blake sort of taking up the mantle. It's kind of, I kind of get, like, a weird vibe, like, maybe, like, the orphans will be involved in the new Batman's schemes or whatever he's
It's a
planning.
possibility.
I don't know. I thought I saw some kind of, I don't know, I saw a possible correlation there. I don't know if that's what Nolan intended. I don't think he's expecting people to believe that John Blake's gonna have an army of children or something.
No, we're not going to turn John Blake into Joseph Cohn. So,
The Goonies.
because now they're going to be shouting, you know, Blake 2012. There's going to be like some 30-minute video.
But
Do you know who this man is? This man is John Robin Blake.
When Gotham is ashes, you have my permission to die.
I gave Bane's voice a bit of crap because I don't know, like my first impression of it coming out of it is that, like, sometimes it sounded very menacing, other times he sounds like "Meow, Batman." He sounds like a 70-year-old. I don't know, but
Your punishment must be more severe, Trebek.
your punishment shall be listening to me talk about how I used to walk in the snow to work. You know? Only then will you have hope that my story will end. Your punishment will be more severe.
Your punishment must be more severe.
Like, when I watched it this time, though, I kind of realized that it was really just kind of that one speech he gives where he's not really trying to sound menacing, where he's, you know, telling the people of Gotham to take back their town, you know, in his way, I guess.
to you not as terrorists, but as liberators.
Liberators, take back your great city.
Yeah.
You know, and
To those of you wondering, Steven and I have been talking like Bane for pretty much the entire night. So there you go.
it's gonna be a thing.
It's going to be a thing. I apologize to everyone who has to encounter us for the next 2 weeks. Granted, it's a lot less annoying than everyone assuming they can do a Joker impression.
Yeah.
So, thank God.
I'm chaos.
I'm chaos.
But yeah, I think I realized, you know, it's that one part in the movie where he's not really trying to be menacing, so, you know, it's a bit more, you know, it's forgiven.
Yeah.
And so I do prefer the voice now. Or I do like the voice. I guess I kind of would have preferred maybe if it was a bit more Hispanic, you know, like the character, but yeah, whatever. That's personal preference. I'm not gonna hold that against the movie.
That's fine.
Nitpicker. But yeah, technically, Bane is still, like, after all these years, he is still a villainess's bodyguard, which, you know, it's funny. But again, like, that's not a flaw in the movie. There were some really great moments that I love even more now, like when Batman basically tells Commissioner Gordon that he's Bruce Wayne. It was a nice moment.
Sniffle.
Yeah, sniffle.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the arcs were a bit more fleshed out for me. Like, a lot of times, like, I'll go into the movie the first time, I'll be entertained by it, and then, like, my second viewings, maybe my third, I'll have, like, a really firm grasp on, you know, this is where the character is at the beginning, or no, that makes me sound stupid.
No, hardly.
Well, I mean, like, with this one, there's a lot of different arcs going on at once. It's not just like Batman. So, you know, I was able to kind of interpret the movie a bit more. And I think I've gone on record saying that my big problem with The Dark Knight was that I feel like there's really not that much subtext. Everything's kind of explicitly explained through dialogue.
Oh no, there's subtext. It's just explained to you all the time.
It's spoon-fed to you.
Yeah.
And that was my big problem with The Dark Knight. And The Dark Knight Rises doesn't really do that. You know, it gives the audience more credit.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that as a viewer. And it makes me want to watch it like a second, third time so I can, fully grasp it.
Yeah.
Because, like, everybody who comes out of The Dark Knight has the exact same understanding of the movie because the movie explained it.
Yeah.
I like it a little bit. I like it more, I think I still prefer Batman Begins, personally. I thought Batman Begins was just really neatly put together. There's no plot holes.
Well, Batman Begins was a game changer.
It was a game changer.
I mean, every one of these has been pretty much a game changer.
Oh, yeah, they've all been very different, you said.
Oh, yeah.
They're very different. They all stand on their own pretty well.
Well, this one requires a lot more knowledge of Batman Begins. When I went to the midnight premiere of The Dark Knight Rises, I attended the Regal Cinemas trilogy screening where they showed...
Yeah, Taylor did that too.
And Taylor did that too, where they showed Batman Begins and The Dark Knight all in preparation for The Dark Knight Rises. And
that had to have been like a full day and take.
That was about 8 hours of sitting on my ass, but it was totally worth it. I'm glad that I did that because there's so much stuff that's referenced in Batman Begins, and if you haven't seen Batman Begins in a while, then you're kind of fucked. So it's good if you've seen it again, if you know what's going on.
And we talked about this in my half of the podcast, that there are people out there who really have no idea if Batman Begins exists. They just kind of went into the trilogy at The Dark Knight,
which is totally their loss. It's a shame.
It is. Like, for me, like, I never understood why people would see sequels before they see the originals.
You can't explain everything.
Sometimes it's circumstantial, it's on TV, whatever.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know. That's always something I never understood. What if that's something you've done, I don't think less of you. It's something I don't understand.
That's fine. That's fine.
But, yeah, I mean, see Batman Begins. I know, like, I think everybody kind of thinks the world of The Dark Knight. I personally think that Batman Begins is a bit more neater.
They're just very different. It all comes down...
The flaws feel smaller to me personally. I know, like, other people will disagree with me on that, but...
I think it comes down to a sort of like an Alien/Aliens debate.
Yeah.
You either prefer one or the other.
Yeah. That's a good analogy.
Yeah.
So I think in the end, I still do prefer Batman Begins, because, I don't know, it just feels neater. There's, the story's on a smaller scale, and it just seems like the scale just kind of went up exponentially with each movie.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing.
But it's a good thing. It's never one of those where it feels like we have to beat the last one just because, just cause. It feels earned, like it feels like a natural progression. Yeah. I can talk. It feels like a natural progression of the story, and that's the best thing about it.
Even like some of like the really big action sequences in The Dark Knight Rises all are kind of stemmed from events from The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
So, it is kind of very much like the next logical step. It's not, like, oh, how can we make this huge? What crazy thing can we concoct for this movie?
Yeah.
I think the hover bat thing is really cool. I still feel
the bat plane.
the bat. Whatever,
the bat.
The hover. I'm gonna call it the hover bat.
That's fine.
I still feel that the hover bat takes a bit of the realism out of it, and that's kind of what really pulled me and a lot of other people into the first two Batman movies. Is how like realistic it felt.
Well, if I could go into that, I discussed this on the podcast. The Nolan's trilogy consists very much of it's based very heavily around what I call the Ghostbusters effect. Which the film Ghostbusters, amazing movie, one of the best movies ever made. It's almost a perfectly flawless film.
I think I've heard of the Ghostbusters effect.
The Ghostbusters effect. You've probably heard me talk about it. One of the things that makes Ghostbusters, the first one, so interesting and beloved and successful, is that it's a completely ridiculous premise. It is not realistic in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
But the film itself treats the subject so realistically, it treats it very seriously. It tries to back everything up with facts. It lures you in with a sense of realism, of factualism.
Despite
the supernatural, it tries to explain everything that it can. It lures you in by making you think that it's realistic. Once it lures you in, once it grabs you, it can do whatever it wants. And if you've watched the film, the second half, the last act is just ridiculous. It's not landed in reality in any way, shape, or form. But it doesn't matter because the movie has earned your trust.
Yeah.
It has led you into thinking that it's realistic, So you're never once going, oh, hey, this is totally stupid. Like, the movie has gained your trust, and that's all it needs. And that's what films like Saving Private Ryan and The Hurt Locker, which aren't actually very realistic films, but they treat the subject so realistically that it gains your trust. And that's what is really heavy with Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, particularly Batman Begins. It's the second act of the film is not based in reality in any way, shape, or form, but because the first act takes itself so seriously and realistically that it gains your trust, and you're willing to go along with whatever it wants you to do. You will believe what it wants you to believe. And it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. It's something that I think a lot of filmmakers should understand. Study Ghostbusters. I never thought I'd say this in my life. Study Ghostbusters.
Which is also a great title that tells you everything about the movie you need to know going into it.
Study Ghostbusters?
Well, Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters. Exactly!
It tells you exactly what the movie
Exactly.
is.
You know exactly what's going to happen in Ghostbusters. They're going to bust some f***ing ghosts.
I don't know. Based on that logic, I guess maybe what irks me a little bit about the hover bat, is that, they talk about it a little bit, but they don't explain how it works, exactly how it flies as well as it does.
But it's not. But is it really important though?
It's not important. It does make me feel like it's not as realistic, and the hover bat thing does kind of come in pretty early in the movie.
Yeah.
So I guess if I were to explain it through the logic that you just explained, I would have liked there to be more time without it to ease me into it more. Maybe.
Okay.
That's just personally, I don't know. That's the one thing I felt kind of took away some realism from it.
That's fine.
The rest of the movie is very ultra realistic. You can believe it happens. No problems there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that sums it up. The hover bat thing still irks me a little bit. And did I have another flaw? The movie's pretty damn good.
We can get into it later, but does that about sum up what you think?
That sums it up. I like it a bit more. I understood a bit more of the arcs, in depth this time around.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's Steven. With me, excuse me, I'm off to a great start. I just hiccuped right there. With me, I loved it when I saw it, but there were still one of the problems that I had was I had seen it right after sitting through Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, so I wasn't treating it so much like just a standalone film. It was like, all right, let's get this done, and I guess I was just expecting a little bit more. It was just, how do you follow up The Dark Knight? And you really don't. And normally I try to judge every film on its own, basis, on its own criteria. And I didn't do that as much with The Dark Knight Rises, and I felt kind of bad about that. But it was just like, all right, let's see what they're going to do. And I guess I was expecting a little bit more. So there was a part of me that was just a tiny bit disappointed, but I still really liked the movie. But I still had a great time. Bane's terrifying. Bane is a great villain. People are complaining about, well, he's no Joker. Well, I don't want him to be the Joker. I want him to be Bane.
He's Joker, but he can kill you with his bare hands.
Exactly. He doesn't need a knife. He doesn't need a gun. Unlike the Joker, who can only fuck with you mentally, Bane can mess you up mentally and physically.
Oh, yeah. That's what I was kind of expecting. I was expecting Bane to just be, a physical Joker.
Yeah.
But he messes Batman up, mentally, even more so.
Bane is one of the smartest villains in the Batman universe. Yep. And they definitely believe that, compared to the monstrosity that was Bane in Joel Schumacher's 1997 piece of Batman and Robin. Oh! Here's a clip. I'm sorry for putting that in there, guys. I only do it because I love you.
Another clip!
We're totally just being awful to our viewers.
Yeah.
But I think watching it again has really, really helped the film a lot, in my opinion. This is one film that definitely benefits from a second viewing. A lot of people complain about like plot holes that
I don't know.
aren't there.
I didn't notice any plot.
There really aren't that many. Like I guess people just aren't paying attention, or they're just not listening.
I'm usually pretty good about plot holes.
Yeah, so am I. But it's like people are just complaining about shit that's not there, and it's like, guys, are you even trying? Like, what the hell? Like, the internet reaction to this film has been kind of astounding to me. I mean, like, it's very divisive, but, like, even then, like, I knew that there was no way it was going to be able to live up to The Dark Knight, because you don't live up to The Dark Knight. You do your own thing, and that's what the film succeeds at being. It's not The Dark Knight .2, or, like, it's not The Dark Knight 2.0. It is a completely different film, which is something that I love about this trilogy, is that every film feels different. Unlike a lot of you know, series, films in a series, where if you played, you know, clips side by side, I couldn't tell you which one is which. With Nolan's trilogy, I could tell you, like, just based on the visuals alone, I could tell you which one is which. Every film is made differently, and I like that. But it's definitely benefited from rewatches. Like, everything becomes a lot more clear. Things that you thought might have been rushed are actually very well established. You know, it goes at its own pace, and it's really, really good. One thing that people seem to be complaining about is that the film is too slow, which...
I feel it is in the beginning, maybe, but once it gets going, it gets going.
Well, one of the things that I liked about it is every film, at least The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, Batman Begins doesn't really do this as much because they had a lot to prove. They couldn't really have as much fun with that. But The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises are paced very similarly to their villains. Like, The Dark Knight is quick and relentless. Like, it is just one thing after the other, and it is just a relentless film. It just keeps coming at you, whereas The Dark Knight Rises is like Bane, where it just takes its time. It's the slow knife, and that's something that I really liked about it. I liked that the film took its time. It wasn't really in any rush. It was like, hey, let's establish the characters, let's establish what the setting is, let's establish what the scene is, let's get the story rolling at its own pace rather than trying to rush it. And that's something that I really, really liked about it, is that it didn't feel like it had to prove anything, like, yeah, we're just gonna knock you out of your park and you're gonna knock you off your seat, you know, within the first 30 minutes. It just took its time. And I love stories that just sort of unravel, you know, like I love Anthony Minghella's films where they're very much so in that nature. You know, I like that this one just sort of took its time getting to where it was gonna go, because it made it just all the more worth it. Let's see. Things that I love, just even even from every time that I watched it. Anne Hathaway as Selena Kyle just knocked it out of the f***ing park. Like, everyone, like, I know everyone was complaining about Anne Hathaway being cast, but then again, everyone complained about Heath Ledger as the Joker, and we were all proven wrong.
I was proven wrong by Heath Ledger.
I was proven wrong by Heath Ledger as well.
Neil dressed up as Joker for Halloween.
I dressed up as Nurse Joker for Halloween. Don't look up pictures because there aren't any. No, there is one. Here it is. Stop laughing. It's all. Stop laughing. I was a stupid college freshman, but Anne Hathaway as Selena Kyle just knocks it out of the park. She just owns like almost every scene she's in. The first scene she shows up, as soon as she just utters the word "oops," is just, I just giggled like a moron. It's like, oh my god, she's just amazing. She's great.
He did.
I did.
He giggled.
I giggled like a moron through a lot of this film. I'm not ashamed to admit. Okay, I'm slightly ashamed to admit, but it's really not that awful.
We all are.
Shut up. Steven, you're making me look bad to our viewers.
What are you gonna do about it, Neil, huh?
Here's another embarrassing picture. Tom Hardy as Bane is just incredible. Like,
he's very menacing.
He's very menacing. We can't keep doing his voice. It's awful.
He stands like that the whole time.
Somebody please turn on the heat.
It's very cold in here.
It's so cold in here.
Where's my fur coat that I left behind?
Tom Hardy does more with 20% of his face in this film than most actors do with 100% of their face.
I'm gonna recycle this joke, but he went to the Grommet School of Stage Acting.
He did go to the Grommet School of Stage Acting, but Tom Hardy, this should do wonders for his career, at least I really hope, because Tom Hardy's an incredible actor. Whether you've seen Bronson, or even if you just saw him in Inception, you'd never believe that this is the same guy. You know, he's just a chameleon. He's wonderful. One thing that surprised me about this was Christian Bale's performance as Bruce Wayne. A lot of people feel kind of indifferent about Bruce Wayne. They kind of feel indifferent about Christian Bale. But I've noticed that ever since The Fighter, Christian Bale's acting has improved. Like, he seems to be more personable. He just seems to be much more of an enjoyable person. Like, if you ever look at interviews from him pre The Fighter, he's just very, I'm a brooding actor, yes, I take my craft very seriously. But ever since The Fighter, he's just wonderful, he's just happy, he's just glad to be alive, he just loves everything. He sang the Powerpuff Girls theme song on television.
That's right.
Here's that clip.
Fighting crime, trying to save the world, here they come just in time, the Powerpuff Girls.
Wasn't that awesome?
Wasn't that awesome? Aren't you glad we did that? And it's definitely evident in this film as well. Like, just his interactions with people, just his line deliveries are much more charismatic. Like, they're much more like when he delivers the line about, or like when he's at Selena Kyle's apartment and Selena Kyle tries to have like an actual decent moment with him where she says, "Hey, I'm Mr. Wayne, I'm really sorry about them taking all your money," and he just sort of pauses for a second and says, "No, you're not," and then just leaves. That just had me rolling. It was great.
Like, if this were like pre-fighter, Christian Bale would be like, "No, you're not."
No, you're not. Just like, no, you're not. Like, he's injecting Bruce Wayne with personality, and that's nice. Great. And
that's kind of what I always loved about Bruce Wayne in the animated series, and the one that I grew up with, is that it did seem like Bruce Wayne had this really fun personality whenever he was like out and about, so nobody would like suspect he was Batman.
Yeah. And that's something that I liked about this one. And Christian Bale, I've always loved Christian Bale, but I think that he really he really stepped it up with this one, and it was great to see him. It's always a pleasure.
Oh my god, like when they're like fixing his back, his acting, like, you believe how painful that is.
Oh god. Can I just, okay, so we gotta talk about those action sequences.
Oh god, every punch, every like sound effect had Neil like cringing.
Nolan in his impact effects just always have, like, ever since the scene where Hugh Jackman falls through the stage and breaks his leg to, you know, in The Dark Knight when Batman shoves Sal Maroni off the side of the building and he breaks his legs. I'm starting to notice Chris Nolan just seems to have this thing with breaking legs in films. I'm starting to notice this. Is anyone else noticing this? Post in our comments if you noticed this.
It's just gonna be like 8 people. Like, I noticed this.
But the action sequences really stepped it up with this one. I mean, like, I feel like the action sequences in each of the Batman films have gotten progressively better. Like, I know people complain about the handheld, claustrophobic, quick cutting of Batman Begins, but I found that for the most part it was effective because I knew what they were trying, like, you know, I could figure out what they were trying to do. You know, they're trying to make Batman this figure in the shadows who just sort of beats the shit out of you and you don't even know what happened to you.
I liked that.
I did too.
I know Taylor didn't like that.
I liked it though. But even then, I can understand Taylor's frustration because it doesn't exactly make for easy watching. It's still kind of like, well, someone clearly flunked out of the Paul Greengrass School of Handheld filmmaking.
It makes me feel like Batman's beating me up.
Yeah.
Shadows, and I like that.
But The Dark Knight stepped it up because one of the reasons why... it's more open areas, but Chris Nolan was also developing as a filmmaker. And with this one, the action sequences are much more choreographed and much more easy to understand, much more comprehensive, because of 2 reasons. 1, Chris Nolan's continuing to grow as a filmmaker, and 2, a third of this film was shot on IMAX. IMAX cameras are very heavy. You cannot hold them handheld. Everything that you do with an IMAX camera has to be pre-planned to the T. So everything has to be coherent. You have to plan everything out, which means you can't slouch on the action sequences. You have to choreograph them and everything. You have to really put a lot of care. And that's one of the reasons why the action sequences are so much better, because, you know, Nolan had to step up his game if he was going to continue using the IMAX film format. And it really benefits, absolutely. And, pardon that. And can I just...
Sorry, guys.
Oh, gotta lay off that chili, Steven. And the film definitely benefits from being in IMAX as well. Like, the IMAX, like, just the shots. Like, I saw it in, you know, regular 35mm projection. And it was awesome. It was great. But this film was meant to be seen on IMAX. And absolutely, it's amazing how much it improves. Like, how much it benefits from it. And this is how it was meant to be seen. And I'll feel kind of guilty about never seeing it in IMAX again. Yeah, so we came out here to the wonderful Mall of Georgia in Buford, Georgia, where else? Because it has one of the few actual IMAX screens. So far, right now, there is an epidemic currently, you know, going across America, which is IMAX versus LIMAX, which that's sort of the term going around the internet for it, and it hurts my soul. Yeah, this is a parking lot, dude. It hurts my soul to use the word LIMAX, but it's true. What's going on is a lot of AMC theater chains have a really large screen, but it's not IMAX, but they're labeling it as IMAX. And there is a rather large difference, as we will show in this picture here.
We need a better name for it, like Crackmax.
Crackmax or something. Look at this picture. Isn't it informative? Anyways, you can see the difference. So if you're going to check out anything on IMAX, just do your research, please. But the Mall of Georgia IMAX is one of the few actual IMAX, well, like real IMAX screens. So we made the hour-and-a-half journey trip here, and it was absolutely worth it. So if you get the opportunity to see this film in IMAX, you will definitely not regret it. Other than that, the film absolutely benefits from a second viewing. So my second impression is I went from really liking this film to almost loving it to actually loving this film. If I had to give it a numerical rating, I would definitely give it like a 9 or a 9.5 out of 10. It's probably tied with The Avengers for my favorite film of the summer. I need some more time to reflect on how it's going to do, but, you know, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'd give it a 9, 9.5, maybe a 9.5.
9
on second viewing.
That's good, man.
It
that's
was a 9
good.
before, now it's a 9.
There you go. So, I guess closing thoughts, Steven?
See the movie. Some really great acting performances in it, and I love how it's not just Batman doing these heroic things. It's always been about, like, the people of Gotham stepping up, and I think you didn't mention Joseph Gordon-Levitt too much in terms of acting.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt is good as always. He's really good as always.
Some
And
solid performance.
and him being Robin was just like one of the best treats ever.
Well, Robin. Well, his name is Robin.
Well, his name is Robin. He's not going to be Robin, but just that little nod was like the best thing ever.
Yeah, he like steps up. I guess he's Batman, or maybe he's Nightwing or something.
We don't know. This is where the trilogy ends.
Yeah, that's where it ends. But it's a good place to end it, and it is probably my favorite third movie in a trilogy.
Yes, absolutely. This one is great. So I guess last question, Steven, would you recommend this film?
No.
Okay.
9.5 isn't good enough for a recommendation.
No, absolutely not. And I would absolutely recommend this film. If you get the opportunity, do go see it. Don't be scared of the Aurora, Colorado shootings, of which we didn't mention because there's no reason to. But absolutely, where our hearts go out to them, and, you know, it's a terrible thing to happen. But if you get the opportunity, do go see this film. It's wonderful. So, speaking of transitions and doing something with your life, so that was our episode of Geeks After College, and what do we say?
You just wasted an hour.
You just wasted 30 minutes watching our show. So, from all of us here at Geeks After College, you just wasted an hour. See ya!